2, 3, 4,
5, 6,
7, 8, 9,
10,
11. And then
11?
you was 12.
12. Okay. Sorry about that.
Let's try this again. GMOs, processed foods, high fructose corn syrup, red meat, refined grains, and fast food. These things are all really bad for you, but they taste really good. Living in the United States, I would say that it's probably pretty fair to say that all of us eat some of these things, if not all, in a given week. At some point in our lives, maybe when we get a little older and our health starts to fail, or when we have children and we want better for them, or maybe even due to our upbringing, we might start to look for a better way to eat. It seems that at every turn we are being told that the food we eat can cause a plethora of health problems. So what do? Possibly, even to a small extent, you grow your own food. Why would anyone want to grow their own food, you ask? Don't we have grocery stores? Well, between 60 and 65% of the food we buy from a grocery store is classified as highly processed. 80% of the actual food that we eat is highly processed. So what are the basic problems with processed foods? The processed foods we eat consist mostly of sugars and food-grade chemicals. So what makes sugars bad? Well, sugar and high fructose corn syrup are both highly processed themselves, aside from the food that they are in, and they are addictive and they lead to overconsumption. Sugars devastate your metabolism far beyond the possible benefit that they might have. They have no nutrients, no proteins, no healthy fats, and no enzymes, and this makes them simply empty calories. Because of this, the consumption of processed sugars are undeniably associated with things like heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and cancer. The diabetic and obesity rate grew from 4.9% in 1990 to 9.3% in 2012, almost doubling the rate. By 2050, it is estimated that 1/3, or 66% of adults, could be diabetic or obese. Other than sugars, processed foods contain all sorts of artificial ingredients, including preservatives, colorants, food enhancements, texturants, and emulsifiers. These chemicals are intended to enhance our food, but could cause some serious health effects. Let's look at two of these categories. First of all, food dyes, colorants. They were originally manufactured from a coal tar, and now they are manufactured from petroleum. So basically you're eating oil. The study indicates that reactions in the human body range from being allergic reactions and hyperactivity in children all the way up to thyroid, bladder, adrenal, and testicular tumors, also in genotoxicity. Preservatives, which include nitrates, benzonates, sulfates, sorbates, parabens, formaldehyde, BHT, and BHA, cause health concerns such as hyperactivity and allergic reactions, asthma, hyperactivity, and neurological damage, as well as cancer. These are very actual condensed lists of effects from a very condensed list of possible contaminants. The separation of our society from its food source has normalized the idea that food comes from the grocery store. This normalization allows for a natural, unprocessed food to actually be abnormal. This thought process has facilitated the corruption of our food, so that now, how do we take back control of our food? Well, the most obvious solution would be to raise your own food. That would put you in control of how your food is grown. If there are no dyes, no chemical processing, and no genetic manipulation, it only stands to reason that there are no dyes, no chemicals, and no perversion of your food. There's also a personal gratification and pride knowing that you are providing your family with wholesome, natural food. Raising your own food, although it requires more effort will save you money. There's no way to calculate the actual savings because of all the variables that are involved, but it's generally accepted that you can save money. Now, on a much higher level, there's a report written called the $11 trillion reward, and it suggests the nation could save, you guessed it, $11 trillion by buying and growing your own food. So, what does it look like when people produce their own food? Well, there are three terms that will help you try and help you understand what I'm trying to get at. Microfarming, urban farming, and urban homesteading. These three terms allude to the idea that using the property you have, even as small as 1/8 of an acre, to produce your food would be the way to go. The uses of your property would include, but is not limited to, first and foremost, a garden. Also, the housing of chickens, or rabbits, or goats would help you produce eggs, meat, and fertilizer for your garden, and cheese and milk from goats. The more you learn about different processes, the more you can customize your resources to meet your own needs. So, is it worth it? Can you really make a difference to your family? It seems like a lot of work is usually what's said. So here's the response. Well, my answer is, if you look at it from you need X amount of property and for X amount of food for X amount of people to make the difference, then you're quite possibly looking at it wrong. A good way to approach the problem is that because of the amount of variables involved with it, is to set your short-range goals to address your immediate concerns and allow your long-term goals to change and adjust them to your changing expectations. When you get wins under your belt and build a little confidence, you can adjust that against your losses and disappointments, and this is the best way to address your situation to make a difference. The other argument is about time. I don't have time for that. That's usually what I hear. Well, yeah, that's actually the problem for most people. And there is no argument against it, but it really is all about priorities. What you're willing to change to make the difference. Money makes your world go round, and if your priorities do not allow for you to change your money, then you need to make a different change, and that would be maybe find somebody that has already made that change and purchase their services, or simply find a farmer's market. At the start, I discussed briefly the different harmful ways our food is corrupted and polluted, and briefly some of the effects that it has on our bodies. I also discussed one of the best ways that I know to combat these problems, and that would be to produce your own food. Now, I know it's kind of strange to see an overweight diabetic old guy that can't see, probably has a limp, depending on which joint hurts at any given day, trying to tell you what to eat and what not to eat. But I'm here to say that it's never too late to make a change for the better. And thank you for listening.